Mist hung over the cliffs of Vera like a thick silver blanket. The wind cut through the air, carrying with it the distant roar of dragons. Kieran, a small human boy with tattered clothes and wide, curious eyes, clutched something precious against his chest. The thing he held was round and warm, its surface glimmering with faint golden lines. It was a dragon egg unlike anything humans had ever touched. His heart pounded as he remembered the warnings from his village. Never go near the dragons. Never take what is theirs. Yet here he was, standing before the forbidden cliffs where the Dragon Queen ruled. The path to the palace was steep and treacherous. Craggy rocks jutted out at odd angles, and the ground shook with the footfalls of dragons that patrolled the skies. Kieran's legs trembled, but he did not let go of the egg. Every step was a test of courage, every breath a challenge. He remembered the moment he had found the egg, abandoned near a cliffside nest. The wind had nearly knocked him over, and the cries of adult dragons had made his ears ring. But he had not turned away. Something inside him whispered that the egg needed him, that a small human could make a difference. When he finally reached the palace gates, he froze. Towers of dark stone rose high into the clouds, adorned with strange, glowing crystals that pulsed like heartbeat lights. The dragons patrolled the walls, their wings stretching across the sky, shadows falling over the ground like giant clouds. Kieran's chest tightened. He could hear them murmuring, a sound like a mix of growls and wind. They were watching him, their glowing eyes fixed on the small human who dared approach. A massive shadow swept over him as the gates opened. Kieran looked up and saw her, the Dragon Queen, Seraphina. Her scales shimmered like molten silver and gold, and her wings stretched wider than the palace courtyard. Her eyes glowed a bright amber, sharp and intelligent, scanning the boy from head to toe. The dragons around her fell silent. Not a wing moved, not a whisper was heard. It felt as if the world itself had stopped. "Why do you come here, little human?" Her voice was deep, echoing through the courtyard. Kieran's voice caught in his throat, but he stood tall. He held the egg up carefully, not daring to drop it. I found it alone," he said. "It was abandoned. I only wanted to keep it safe." The queen tilted her head, studying him. The murmurs among the dragons grew louder. No human had ever entered their palace with an egg in hand, let alone spoken to her without fear. "The life of dragons is not yours to protect," Seraphina said. Her tone was sharp like a blade cutting the air. "Many humans would take what does not belong to them. Why should I believe you are different?" Kieran swallowed hard. He had no answers that could match the power of the queen. But still he spoke with honesty. "I only wanted to help. I didn't take it to hurt anyone. I couldn't leave it alone." His voice was soft but full of determination. The queen leaned closer, the warmth of her breath brushing against him like a storm approaching. "Many have tried to lie to me, little human. Many have come with greed in their hearts. What makes you so sure you can survive among dragons?" Kieran's eyes did not waver. I will do what is right. I will learn. I will listen. I just want to keep it safe." Seraphina's gaze lingered on him, searching, weighing, deciding. The silence stretched on like a bridge over a deep canyon. The dragons in the courtyard shifted uneasily. Some hissed, others clicked their claws on the stones. Kieran could feel the heat of their judgment, the weight of their suspicion. He dared not breathe too loud, dared not move too quickly. And yet he felt a strange sense of hope. Perhaps one small human could make a difference. Perhaps courage could reach even the heart of a dragon. Finally the queen straightened, her massive wings spreading slightly. "Very well," she said. "You will stay here. You will be watched. You will learn what it means to respect dragons. Fail and the consequences will be yours to bear. Succeed, and you may yet prove that humans are capable of more than I believed." Kieran felt a rush of relief and fear all at once. He nodded quickly. "I will not fail." A young dragon approached, smaller than the others, its scales a deep blue with silver streaks. It sniffed the air around Kieran and the egg, then tilted its head. Kieran held out his hand slowly. The dragon watched, then with a cautious curiosity, brushed its snout against the egg. Kieran smiled, feeling a bond form in that quiet, tense moment. If he could earn the trust of one dragon, perhaps he could earn the trust of all. As night fell, the palace lit up with glowing crystals that shimmered like stars. Kieran sat in the courtyard, the egg resting safely on his lap. He could hear the distant roars and growls of dragons patrolling the cliffs, and he knew that danger was never far. Yet he also knew something new, that bravery was not about being fearless, but about moving forward despite fear. He had taken the first step. He had entered the forbidden nest. and the world he had known would never be the same again. When Kieran finally closed his eyes that night, he dreamed of wings stretching wide, of fire and wind and scales. He dreamed of a dragon queen watching him, of the egg glowing gently in his hands. And for the first time he felt that even a small human could change the future of dragons, if he had courage enough to try. The morning sun cast long shadows across the dragon palace, painting the stones in shades of gold and silver. Kieran woke on a cold stone floor, the egg still safe in his small hands. Today the queen would test him, he knew. The courtyard was already alive with dragons, wings folded, eyes following him wherever he moved. Their gazes were sharp, wary, and full of unspoken questions. Kieran's stomach twisted with nerves. Every step toward the throne felt heavier than the last, but he held the egg tightly, refusing to show fear. Seraphina sat upon her throne, tall and regal. Her scales glittered like sunlight on water, and her wings stretched behind her like banners of power. She regarded Kieran with the same intense eyes he had seen yesterday. The courtyard was silent except for the low hum of dragon voices, their curiosity and caution hanging in the air. "Little human," she began, her voice echoing like rolling thunder, "you claim to protect what is not yours. Today we will see if your heart is true, or if it hides foolishness beneath bravery." Kieran swallowed hard. He had expected a test, but not this. He nodded, though his hands shook slightly. I am ready," he said, his voice small but steady. Seraphina leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "You will face 3 trials. The first is patience. The second is courage. The third will be of your choice. Fail in any, and you will leave this place as a lesson for others." Kieran's throat tightened, but he did not back away. A large dragon with deep red scales approached. Its eyes glimmered like burning coals, and its voice rumbled like distant earthquakes. "The first trial is patience. You must sit here in the courtyard without leaving, without fear, until the younglings approach you willingly. If you frighten them, the trial is failed." Kieran glanced at the young dragons, smaller and skittish, their scales shimmering with color. He took a deep breath and sat down, cross-legged, egg in his lap. His heart raced as the smallest dragons circled him, sniffing and tilting their heads. Minutes stretched like hours. Kieran did not move, did not flinch when a small dragon came close, sniffing at the egg. It hesitated, then nuzzled the smooth shell gently. Another followed, then another. Slowly, one by one, the young dragons gathered near him, curious and calm. Kieran's face lit with a small smile. Seraphina's eyes softened slightly. Patience was not easy, but he had shown it. Next came courage. A shadow swept over him as a massive black dragon landed nearby, scales glinting like polished obsidian. Its claws dug into the stone, sparks flying. "The second trial is courage," Seraphina's voice said, calm but commanding. "You must carry the egg to the cliffside, where no human has dared go, while the dragons observe. Any hesitation and the trial is failed." Kieran's heart pounded. The cliffs were dangerous, jagged and high, with winds that could sweep away the bravest of creatures. He tightened his grip on the egg. Step by careful step, Kieran moved across the courtyard, the dragons watching his every move. A cold wind whipped around him, nearly toppling him, but he kept his balance. Some dragons hissed, circling him like storm clouds ready to strike. He did not speak, he did not flinch. The egg seemed to hum gently as if encouraging him forward. When he finally reached the edge of the cliffside, the young dragons cheered softly, their small voices carrying over the wind. The black dragon studied him silently, then stepped back. Courage, it seemed, had been proven. The third trial was left to Kieran. He looked at Seraphina, then at the egg. "I choose to learn from them," he said quietly. "I want to know the dragon's ways, their language, their rules. I want to be trusted." The queen's eyes widened slightly. Few humans ever chose understanding over personal gain. "Very well," she said. "Then you will stay here. You will be taught. You will be tested again, not with danger but with knowledge. Fail to learn, and the trust you seek will not be granted." The lessons began immediately. Kieran followed the dragons across the cliffs, observing how they hunted, how they communicated with gestures and roars. He learned which movements were greetings, which were warnings. He discovered the meaning of the glowing crystals, the secrets of flight, and the patterns of wind and fire. The dragons that had once hissed at him now allowed him to watch, some even guiding him gently with their tails or wings. The palace that had seemed so cold and unwelcoming began to feel alive, filled with creatures that were more complex than he could have imagined. One evening, a dragon named Varys, with scales of deep emerald, approached him. "You have patience," it rumbled, and courage. But do you have respect? Do you understand the weight of our lives? Kieran nodded. I do not know everything, he admitted, but I will listen. I will try to understand. I will not harm what I cannot control. Varys studied him for a long moment, then touched his forehead gently with its snout. A small warmth spread through Kieran's body, and he realized he had earned the trust of a dragon for the first time. Seraphina observed silently from above. The queen's wings shifted and her eyes glowed with quiet approval. Kieran's heart swelled with pride and fear. Every step he had taken had been dangerous. Every choice could have ended badly. Yet he had proven that even a human could show wisdom, patience, and courage. He was not just a boy with an egg, he was a bridge between two worlds. That night, as Kieran lay under the glowing crystals of the palace courtyard, he held the egg and whispered to it. We will learn together. We will survive together. Somewhere above, Seraphina's shadow passed, a silent acknowledgement that the trials had begun to change something in her heart. Kieran had not only survived the queen's test, he had begun to earn the respect of dragons. In the distance, a roar echoed across the cliffs, a reminder that danger and challenge were never far. But for the first time, Kieran felt that he had a place in this world of dragons. A small human, perhaps too small to matter, had begun to prove that courage, patience, and respect could change the course of history, even in a land ruled by dragons. The first steps of trust had been taken, and the future, though uncertain, held promise. The morning sky was painted with streaks of orange and pink as Kieran followed the dragons across the cliffs. Each step brought him closer to understanding a world humans had only feared from afar. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and minerals, and the wind carried the distant roars of dragons in flight. Kieran held the dragon egg carefully, its surface warm against his palms, and felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him like a stone. Today Seraphina would watch him more closely than ever. Varys, the emerald dragon, led him to a plateau where the adult dragons practiced flight and fire. The rocks glowed faintly with heat, and Kieran had to step carefully to avoid the scorching surfaces. Watch first, Varys rumbled. Learn how we move, how we speak without words, and how we respect the skies. Kieran's eyes followed the dragons as they swooped and circled, their wings slicing through the air with perfect grace. Their movements were not just power, they were language, a way of telling each other where danger lay, when to hunt and when to rest. Kieran tried to copy their gestures, lifting his arms like wings, tilting his head to signal attention, and bowing slightly to show respect. At first, the dragons hissed and recoiled, but gradually they grew curious. A small bronze dragon, scales glinting like molten metal, approached and tapped Kieran gently with its claw. Kieran froze, afraid of angering it, but the touch was light and careful, almost as if the dragon was testing him. He bowed his head slowly. The dragon clicked its teeth, a sound that felt like laughter, and nudged him forward. The lesson of patience continued through the day. Kieran learned to move without sudden motions, to breathe in rhythm with the dragon's wings, and to sense danger before it arrived. One mistake could mean a harsh reaction from a dragon, yet he was determined not to fail. Slowly he began to understand that dragons judged humans not by size or strength, but by heart and intention. Kieran's heart beat faster with every small victory, every gesture that earned a nod or a quiet murmur from the dragons. Then came the lesson of trust. Seraphina's voice echoed from above. Courage is not enough. Wisdom without trust is worthless. You must show that you can respect us and act without harming our kind. Kieran nodded and stepped forward as Varys guided him to the cliffside nests. There the youngest dragons were learning to fly, their wings trembling in the wind. The egg in Kieran's hands pulsed softly, as if sensing the presence of its future kin. He knelt carefully, placing the egg near the nest without disturbing the younglings. The small dragons eyed him suspiciously. One flapped its wings sharply, testing whether Kieran was a threat. Kieran stayed perfectly still, hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. Slowly the young dragon approached, brushing its snout against the egg. Kieran exhaled softly, feeling a spark of relief. One by one the other dragons came closer, circling him and accepting his presence. Trust, he realized, was not demanded, it was earned step by step through patience and respect. As the sun climbed higher, Kieran learned how dragons communicated in subtle ways. A tilt of the head could signal caution, a sweep of the tail could mean agreement. The fire they breathed was not just for hunting, it was a way of marking territory, warning intruders, or signaling joy. Every moment was a lesson, and Kieran absorbed it all with wide eyes and careful hands. Even the egg seemed to react to his understanding, glowing faintly and vibrating with warmth. In the afternoon, a challenge came that tested all he had learned. A rogue dragon from another clan appeared on the cliffs, its scales dark as night and eyes filled with aggression. It landed heavily, shaking stones loose from the cliffs. The young dragons scattered, frightened. Kieran froze for a moment, clutching the egg. Then he remembered everything Varys had taught him: calm gestures, steady breathing, and respect. He held the egg high, stepped forward, and spoke in a soft voice he hoped the dragons would understand. "I mean no harm. We are friends." The rogue dragon paused, observing him with caution. Kieran kept his hands visible, moved slowly, and did not retreat. The other dragons gathered around, forming a protective circle. Slowly the rogue's stance softened, and it finally lowered its head in acknowledgement. Kieran exhaled, his heart pounding. He had not only kept himself safe, he had protected the younglings and the egg without anger or violence. Seraphina's eyes glimmered from above, a silent sign of approval. By evening, Kieran was exhausted but filled with a new sense of purpose. He had learned that dragons were not just powerful, they were intelligent, proud, and capable of forming bonds with those who earned their trust. Even the smallest gesture of kindness or respect could change the way they saw him. Kieran sat with the egg nestled in his lap, surrounded by young dragons that no longer hissed or recoiled. They were calm, curious, and accepting, and for the first time Kieran felt that he belonged, even in this world of fire and wings. That night, under the soft glow of the palace crystals, Kieran whispered to the egg, "We are learning together. We will survive together." The egg vibrated lightly in response, as if understanding him. Somewhere above, Seraphina's shadow passed silently, her eyes watching. She had begun to see that courage and patience could bridge the gap between human and dragon. Kieran had proven that he was not just a boy with an egg. He was a student, a protector, and a friend to creatures far greater than himself. As the stars appeared over Vera, Kieran's thoughts wandered to what tomorrow would bring. He knew more lessons awaited, more tests of courage, patience, and trust. But for the first time he felt ready. He was no longer just a frightened child. He was part of a larger story, one where humans and dragons could learn from each other. The cliffs whispered in the wind, the dragons hummed softly around him, and Kieran held the egg close, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He had begun to understand the meaning of true respect, and the bond between him and the dragons was growing stronger every moment. For Kieran, the world of dragons was no longer a place of fear, it was a place of learning, trust, and hope. And the journey had only just begun. The morning light spilled over the cliffs of Vera, turning the crystals in the palace walls into tiny suns. Kieran woke with the dragon egg resting gently beside him. It had grown warmer in the past days, pulsing softly as if alive. He felt a strange excitement in his chest. Today he thought something was about to change. The young dragons gathered near him, chirping and nudging each other. Even the adults watched quietly from the cliffs above, their wings folded and eyes keen. Varys approached, emerald scales gleaming in the light. "The egg stirs," the dragon rumbled. "Its child will emerge soon. You must be ready." Kieran's heart thumped loudly. He had never seen a dragon hatch, and the thought of holding new life in his hands made him both nervous and proud. He lifted the egg carefully, feeling its warmth and the faint vibrations inside. "I will be ready," he whispered. The first crack appeared mid-morning. A thin line split the smooth shell and golden light leaked through. Kieran froze, hands steady, holding the egg upright. The cracks widened, tiny fragments falling to the stone below. Finally, with a soft chirp, a small dragon emerged. Its scales shimmered with colors he had never seen before: silver, blue, and a faint pink glow along its wings. The dragon blinked at him with bright, intelligent eyes, then let out a tiny squeak. Kieran's breath caught. He knelt slowly, speaking in a soft, calm voice. "Hello, you're safe now. My name is Kieran." The baby dragon blinked and slowly stepped closer, touching his hand with its snout. Kieran smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. The bond was immediate, unspoken but powerful. The young dragon had sensed his care and trust. He decided to name it Lumina, for the gentle light that seemed to shine from its scales. Seraphina watched from above, wings spread wide, her eyes glowing with curiosity and caution. "The bond is rare," she said, her voice echoing in the courtyard. "Few humans earn the trust of dragons. You have shown patience, courage, and respect. Now this child of ours has chosen you." Kieran's hands trembled slightly as he cradled Lumina. The dragon chirped softly, pressing against his chest. He realized in that moment that he was no longer just a protector. He was a friend, a guide, and a part of something larger than himself. The palace erupted with quiet excitement. The young dragons approached, curious about Lumina and Kieran. Some sniffed at his hands, others brushed against his shoulders. Even the older dragons lowered their heads in acknowledgement. Kieran had never imagined that a human could gain such acceptance. Yet here he was, surrounded by dragons who no longer hissed or recoiled. Trust had been earned and bonds had been formed. Varys guided him to the cliffside, where the young dragons practiced flight. Lumina hesitated at first, wings trembling, but Kieran knelt, offering support. "You can do it," he whispered. Slowly Lumina flapped, caught the wind and rose a few feet. The other dragons cheered softly, and Kieran felt a surge of pride. Seraphina's gaze lingered on him, a small smile forming on her sharp features. The boy had not only survived their tests, he had become part of their world. Over the next days, Kieran and Lumina explored the cliffs together. He learned the dragon's subtle ways, how a tail sweep could signal danger, how a nod of the head could mean approval. He learned to sense shifts in the wind and to move silently with them across rocky ledges. Lumina grew stronger, more confident, and their bond deepened. Kieran discovered that dragons were not only fierce, they were wise, playful, and capable of loyalty that few humans could understand. One afternoon a storm rolled over the cliffs. Lightning split the sky, and thunder shook the rocks beneath them. The young dragons panicked, huddling close to Kieran for safety. He wrapped Lumina in his arms, shielding him from the rain and wind. Seraphina descended, massive wings slicing through the storm, and landed beside him. "You remain calm in chaos," she said. "That is the mark of true courage. Trust is fragile and you have kept it alive." Kieran's heart swelled. He had learned that bravery was not just in facing danger, it was in protecting others when the world threatened to tear apart. As the storm passed, the cliffs glistened with rain and crystal light. Kieran and Lumina stood together, the egg now empty, a symbol of life begun. Seraphina approached, her great wings folding neatly behind her. "You have changed more than you realize," she said quietly. "Your courage, your respect, your patience, they have altered the way dragons see humans. Perhaps the future can be different because of you." Kieran's eyes widened. The Queen's words felt heavy and important. He had started as a small, frightened boy, and now he held the trust of dragons in his hands. That night, Kieran sat under the glowing palace crystals, Lumina curled against him. He whispered softly, "We will face whatever comes together. I will protect you and you will guide me." Lumina chirped in reply, nuzzling his cheek. Kieran realized that the bond was more than protection. It was friendship, respect, and understanding. A human and a dragon could learn from each other, grow together, and change the world in ways no one had imagined. Seraphina watched from above, her gaze softening. The trust Kieran had earned was rare, a bridge between species that had long feared each other. The young dragon glowed softly in his arms, the first of a new generation that could grow with humans as allies rather than strangers. The cliffs no longer seemed so forbidding, the wind no longer seemed threatening. Kieran had proven that even a human could belong in the world of dragons, and that courage combined with care could awaken bonds stronger than fear or anger. As the stars appeared over Vera, Kieran closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the gentle rise and fall of Lumina against him. He understood that this was only the beginning. The dragons had chosen to trust him, and he had chosen to protect and learn from them. Together they had formed a bond that could shape the future. And in that quiet moment, with the palace glowing and the cliffs alive with life, Kieran knew that he and Lumina were ready to face whatever challenges awaited, side by side, their bond unbreakable. The morning sun rose over the cliffs of Vera, casting long golden beams across the palace and the surrounding valleys. Kieran stood at the edge of the highest cliff, Lumina perched beside him, wings stretching wide. The young dragon's scales shimmered in the sunlight, reflecting colors like a rainbow caught in crystal. Around them, the dragons of the Queen's court gathered, wings folding and eyes bright, watching the boy who had earned their trust. Kieran's heart raced, filled with a mix of pride and nervousness. Today would mark a new beginning. Seraphina descended from the skies, landing gracefully in front of Kieran. Her wings folded behind her like a great silver curtain, and her amber eyes glowed warmly. "The time has come," she said, her voice carrying over the cliffs. "You have shown patience, courage, and respect. You have earned not just my trust but the trust of the dragons. Now it is time for humans to step forward, not as intruders but as allies." Kieran's breath caught. He had only wanted to protect the egg at first, and now the Queen spoke of a future that could include humans and dragons together. The dragons around them shifted and murmured, their sounds carrying both curiosity and excitement. Some lowered their heads in acknowledgement of Kieran, while others circled gently above. Varys landed nearby, nodding as if to say that the boy's journey was far from over, but his place among dragons had been secured. Kieran knelt, placing his hands gently on Lumina's glowing head. "We can do this," he whispered. "We can show them humans can be friends, not enemies." Lumina chirped softly, nuzzling his cheek as if agreeing. Seraphina lifted her massive wings and glided above the cliffs, calling the other dragons to attention. "Let it be known," she declared, her voice echoing like thunder, "that humans may no longer be feared here. Those who prove themselves as you have, little human, shall be welcomed as allies. The world beyond the cliffs can learn from us and we from them. Trust has been built where there was only fear before." Kieran felt a surge of hope. His small actions, his courage and care, had begun to change the way two species saw each other. Word of Kieran's bravery and the bond with Lumina spread quickly across the cliffs. Dragons flew to the villages nearby, not to attack but to show themselves, to invite humans to learn and observe. Some villagers were hesitant, clutching their tools and hiding behind walls, but Kieran stepped forward, holding his hands in a gesture of peace. "We come in friendship," he called. "We want to learn and live together." Slowly, one by one, humans approached, curiosity overcoming fear. Lumina chirped and flapped, demonstrating trust, and the villagers began to see dragons not as monsters, but as creatures capable of intelligence and emotion. Kieran spent the days teaching humans how to communicate with dragons, showing them the gestures and signals he had learned. The dragons in turn accepted the humans' cautious attempts, guiding them gently. Small bonds formed. Humans who had once feared the cliffs now walked alongside dragons, feeding them, learning from them and observing their ways. Kieran felt a sense of pride unlike anything before. The egg he had protected had hatched, and from it came not just Lumina, but the beginning of a new era. One afternoon, a group of dragons from a distant valley approached. Their scales were dark, eyes wary, and their wings beating with power. The humans tensed, expecting conflict. But Kieran stepped forward, holding Lumina in front of him. "We are friends," he said calmly. "We want peace. We have learned to respect your ways as you respect ours." The distant dragons hesitated, then lowered their heads in acknowledgement. The bond he had formed with Lumina and the other dragons had become a bridge between lands, a symbol of hope. Even Seraphina seemed to smile as she watched from above. "You have rewritten what was thought impossible," she said quietly to Kieran. "A human has earned our trust and in doing so has shown that the future can be changed. Fear does not have to rule the hearts of dragons or humans. Courage and care can lead the way." Kieran felt a warmth spread through him, a mixture of pride, humility and wonder. He had started as a frightened boy clutching an egg, and now he stood at the center of a new world, one where humans and dragons could coexist. As weeks turned into months, the cliffs of Vera became a place of learning and collaboration. Humans and dragons shared knowledge, taught each other skills and formed friendships. The egg Kieran had carried became a symbol, reminding everyone that even small acts of bravery and care could change the course of history. Lumina grew stronger, soaring alongside Kieran as he guided visitors, his wings reflecting sunlight like a living prism. Together they explored cliffs, valleys and forests, showing that understanding could thrive where fear once ruled. One evening, Kieran sat on a cliff ledge with Lumina at his side, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and crimson. Dragons circled above and humans walked below, mingling and learning. Seraphina landed beside him, her great wings folding gracefully. "This is only the beginning," she said. "But you have shown what is possible. Never forget that a single act of courage and care can change the hearts of many." Kieran smiled, stroking Lumina's scales. "I won't forget," he said softly. "And together we can make the future better for everyone." As darkness fell and stars appeared above Vera, the cliffs seemed alive with life, hope and harmony. The dragons no longer roared in anger, and humans no longer feared the skies. Kieran realized that what had started as a small act of protection had grown into something much larger, a bond between species that could shape the world. He looked at Lumina, glowing faintly in the moonlight, and whispered, "We did it. We really did it." Lumina chirped softly in reply, curling against him, and Kieran felt that nothing could break the trust and friendship they had built. In that quiet night, Kieran understood that bravery was not just about facing danger, but about choosing care, patience and respect when it mattered most. The cliffs of Vera had been a place of fear for humans for generations, but now they were a symbol of hope. Dragons and humans walked together, learning, growing and protecting each other. And in the center of it all, a small human boy and a young dragon had rewritten the future, proving that courage and kindness could change everything.